Alright everyone, we start off today talking about the rise of the Fuddites, as I've come to call them. The normal parlance is Fud, but I think that Fuddite is more mimetic because it combines that concept, so being like an Elmer Fudd, like older age NRA member with the duck hunting hat, and Grandpa gave me his single action revolver 30 years ago, and that's the only gun that you need, dadgummit. If you can't hit a deer from 10,000 yards away with a 22, then y'all ain't need to be hunting. Fuddery. So people who are stuck in the past, in the good old days when the boys would take their, bolt actions out hunting after school and stuff, and so they don't see the need for the scary guns of modernity. So a tactical pistol, an AR-15, which really is not a particularly high caliber weapon, but the Fuds claim that it is, and it combines that with Luddite, actually, which is a common use term that most people understand. So I think that Fuddite is better than saying just Fud. So clankers, let's go legacy media mode again and popularize a term that I don't know that I'm actually inventing, but I'm using anyway. It'll be fun. It's interesting to see whether things like that linguistically catch on. Link in the description, archived of course. Here's a MAGA Republican. I used to own an AR-15, but this is not what our tribe needs to do. We need to stand for common sense gun reform. Think of the children. It's the same tired bullshit argument that's been offered up by the anti-gunners from time immemorial. Some guns are just too dangerous to be wielded by the law-abiding militia, because sometimes people get shot. We've already cut this argument to pieces. Again, this is a person who's claiming to be like a populistic MAGA Republican, but saying the AR-15 just goes too far. But it's basically just a list of Democratic talking points. When you're putting in your opinion piece on Salon, I'm questioning whether this is genuinely a MAGA Republican. I'll put it very bluntly. Most shootings in the United States, most deployments of guns in general, that are not some sort of justifiable self-defense, are accidents or suicide. Of those which remain, so offensive uses, there's no legal justification. You have broken the law by deploying the weapon. Most of it involves handguns, often involves gang crimes. Even when we look at school shooting data, here's the problem. There are lies, damn lies, and statistics, and I boil it down in my work against gun control. How to Debate Gun Rights and Win, link in the description. In fact, I'll just pin it at the top. You should get a copy of it. It's been very well received. Hundreds and hundreds of copies have sold. If we look at the data on gun crime / gun deaths, etc., it's very, very murky, and it's misanalyzed by virtually everyone using it, because virtually everyone using it has an axe to grind. And gun death is different from gun crime, because gun death involves suicides as well. That's about a third of the total. When we talk about homicide, those can be justifiable or unjustifiable, but those are often lumped together by people who don't like guns to inflate the number. If I kill somebody in self-defense, I don't face any charges because they were coming at me with a machete. That's a justifiable homicide. Yes, somebody has absolutely been killed by a firearm, but it wasn't a crime. And it's meaningful especially because that number is actually larger than the number of unjustifiable usages. Then you've got usages of guns. Well, if I flash a gun at a person and they leave me alone, they were trying to rob me or rape me or something like that, and they see that I'm armed with a revolver or whatever, and they leave, technically that's also a defensive usage of a gun. By the way, that's the majority of defensive usages. Most defensive usage is basically the person became aware that you are armed and decided not to commit a crime. There are many cases of that every single year in the United States and around the world. The United States is not the only country with a decent amount of gun ownership. I'm currently in one of the most anti-gun countries in the world, which I find incredibly ironic given my views on firearms. The fact is, though, that this is fuddery. This is being a Fuddite. You're living in an America that no longer exists, where the militia can defend itself with single-action revolvers and stuff like that, and daddy's 12 gauge. That's not the America that we live in anymore. If the militia is to be properly understood as well-equipped, which means well-regulated, they're synonymous in 1700s parlance, then it needs those modern weapons, because they are simply superior. They are superior in their overall capabilities. Yes, an AR-15 despite not having necessarily the most powerful caliber, is a highly serviceable, highly modular, easily maintained, reliable weapon. There's a reason why that particular aesthetic knocked off of the U.S. Armed Forces M16 is in such wide use. It is simply a good weapon overall. The AK-47 falls into the same category. Between that and the military version of the AR-15, you're basically looking at the standard arm of the standard infantry gun of most of the world's militaries. Again, the civilian versions are not nearly the same, but they are aesthetically similar because of the ease of use, the ease of operation, and the high level of reliability for intermediate caliber rifles. That's just the way that it is. In my opinion, the militia is still deficient, though. It's currently not well regulated. Not because it's out of control and unlawful. No, no, no. Considering the number of gun owners in the United States, if gun owners were uniquely pernicious individuals, it'd be 10 times as many killings. Most of what you're seeing is gang-related. It also tends to be limited to a handful of inner-city areas. If you took the top 30 or 40 cities for gun crime, and you eliminated them from the statistics, do you know what you're left with? A country as peaceful as Switzerland or Norway. A country with arguably fewer murders than here in the Netherlands or in Ireland or some place that liberal Americans generally consider to be left-leaning and idyllic, which is not universally the case on various issues, but we'll get past that for the moment because it's outside of the purview of the gun debate. The Fuddites, though, don't understand this. These are people with standard, supposedly conservative beliefs, which basically means sometimes I go to church and, yeah, I like steak and you ain't feeding me bugs. But on guns, you sound like a standard Democrat. You sound like a neoliberal. See, you've gobbled down the propaganda. You believe that gun crimes generally happen using the AR-15. They don't. They use handguns. That they're generally related to psychopaths and terrorists. They're not. They're related to gang activity mostly. And again, if you eliminated a handful of cities, like if we used atom bombs on the top 10 cities for gun crime in the United States, all of a sudden half the gang members would be dead. It's very, very limited geographically. It is seeping out into other areas pertinent to pertinent to the pro-crime mentality of the current administration more than anything else, as well as economic stressors and addiction. Again, that addiction feeds gang crime. Well, I think that these things might be slightly linked. One thing that it's not linked to is the usage of rifles. It's linked to the usage of as small of caliber of weapons as possible because they're more easily concealed. If I'm a member of a gang and the gang leader tells me, okay, you want to upgrade your standing in this gang, you're going to have to glass a couple of those Crips over there. We're going see cave driving, going to do some Crip killing. I probably don't want to get caught killing the Crips, because then I'll end up in a prison gang for the next 40 years. Of course, with the revolving door pro-crime policies of some of these left-wing inner cities, well, maybe, maybe not. They'll say I was historically discriminated against, so you're not allowed to give me jail time. They'll give me probation for killing 3 people. I probably want to get away with it, though, unless I'm a complete moron. Which one am I going to choose? Am I going to lean out the window with a full AR-15? Or am I going to take my Glock in 380 or 9mm or something like that, as a snubbed, of course, a rather small handgun that I can stuff into my baggy jeans? There's a reason why gangsters like to wear baggy clothes, by the way. It's to conceal weapons. The cops know this. It's not profiling. It's called common fucking pragmatic sense. And I shoot them with that and I put it back in. Hopefully nobody notices that I'm the shooter. Hopefully I'm not on camera or something like that. You know, I'm walking by, I glass them. I'm driving by, I kill them. I'm not going to use, and it wouldn't make any sense to use a rifle of any kind, let alone an AR-15 or something. Even a so-called short-barreled rifle. They're not going to get used, or a tactical pistol. Those aren't going to get used by a gang member to do a drive-by, which is like fucking 30% of all the gun crimes in the country. Just the drive-bys, let alone the other spree killers and assassinations that go on in your inner cities because of a drug deal gone wrong or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to put that link at the top. You should definitely read it. It's one of my finer works. I'm maybe biased, but I'm also correct on this one. So yeah, the Fuddites. Let's get that term going mimetically. Damn, I should have put it in the fucking book. That's about all. Peace out.